Hello and welcome to this Sunday, August 4th, 2019 episode of the Grab Attn podcast. This is for the Gary V Club. I've got my actual signed copy of the Gary V's book, Crushing It. And this is actually only the only book I've actually purchased of Gary V's. And it sat there and I watched it and it waited until I had the money, and it wasn't like it was extremely expensive. It was still only $29.99, but I didn't have the money at the time. And then I got it, and on that day I was like, yes, I'm just going to do it. And I was originally going to give it away. I don't know if I'm going to give it away or not, because I've just kind of held on to it and I like it. I don't know that anyone else would appreciate it quite like I appreciate it. So now that I've started this podcast, we'll see. But the purpose of this podcast is, what is crushing it? What is crushing it really? The name of this book is Crushing It: How Great Entrepreneurs Build Their Businesses and Influence, and How You Can Too. And it's got some names like The Rock, Jessica Alba, and it's a continuation of the book at Crush It. The first chapter starts with, basically it's about you. And chapter one, part one, get pumped. And then chapter one is the path is all yours. And I think that's the biggest thing with what Gary V teaches, is that it is all about your path, really. Your path is going to be different than other people's paths. And this book is really about highlighting all the different ways that people are crushing it. And it talks about what still matters, the eighth essential, which is content. What's stopping you? The only thing you need to give yourself to crush it. Chapter 5 is a good one. First, do this. That has to do with creating a Facebook, get discovered, Musical.ly, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, podcasts, voice first, conclusion, acknowledgments. I mean, this book is really about getting people to do what they need to do to be crushing it in this day and age. And that's what I like about it. I like that it's based on what he teaches, and his books are each slightly different. There's the Thank You Economy, Jab, 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 Right Hook, and Crushing It happens to be one of the most popular, even though like Thank You Economy may be a little bit better, Jab, 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 Right Hook. The Thank You Economy really is probably the purest to what Gary V lives like, because all of his stuff is giving, giving, giving. No one would need to actually pay him with the content that he gives, which is the interesting part. So Crushing It is just kind of like a continuation of, look, what I taught in my older books works. Here are the stories of people doing it, and here are the basics of doing it. Get started. That's why I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. I just created Instagram and Twitter accounts for my other podcast now. I'm doing that for this podcast after I get off of here, because that needs to be in place. So by the end of the day, all of my podcasts will have the accounts they need. And I have some Twitter accounts and some Instagram accounts, but I needed to add a few more. So I'm going to be filling that out today. And then over this week, I'm going to be adding in the marketing that's included in what Gary V teaches. And that's the thing, is for the last 4 weeks, I've been doing these podcasts, but I haven't been sharing them with anyone because I was just getting myself into the habit. Now I'm in the habit. I added this podcast yesterday. This is episode 2 of this Grab Attn podcast. And it's designed for the Gary V Club, and I'm going to talk about a lot of the stuff in regards to Gary V. With it, it's allowing me to watch Gary V's content as part of my work. And then I can share Gary V's content with other people, and it helps me leverage him for my own purposes. And he's definitely going to gain more recognition from this because while his grand vision is to buy the jets, my grand vision is to feed, house, and empower 1 billion people. And I believe that is done by teaching them how to feed, house, and empower themselves. But I'm going to be building the villages and cities and houses to do this. Um, I think there needs to be an entity like this that will move forward and work to solve these homelessness problems. And there are over 2.5 billion people without clean, well, without proper toilets and sanitation. I mean, there's 70 million displaced refugees around the world, 500,000 people in America sleeping on the streets. So I'm using this podcast and Gary Vee's teachings to help people so that they don't run into those problems. And not that, normal everyday people end up homeless, but the only mental illnesses that I have are in relation to happiness. They're related to having, being spoiled and things like that. Not necessarily spoiled, but they're into having an overabundance without having to work for it, without understanding certain things in life. And Gary's teachings really are a lot about happiness, and that's why I chose him, because it's marketing and happiness. And there's no one else like him that's doing this. So this truly is fitting into, Gary thinks he'll eventually, I mean, he has high goals and visions for himself, and he probably isn't even telling people what he's really thinking. And that's why I chose him, because he really is a part of this. He really is big enough to be a part of this. So I appreciate you. Thank you for watching or listening to episode 2 of the Grab Attn podcast. Thank you.